The sky burned with orange and pink as the sun slowly sank behind the tall city buildings. People were finishing their day, hurrying along the streets, when suddenly, a strange sound stopped everyone in their tracks. A shimmering light appeared in the sky, moving silently, faster than any plane or satellite. It was smooth, silver, and almost alive, reflecting the colors of the sunset like liquid metal. From that light, a ship began to descend. It was unlike anything the people had ever seen. Its edges glowed faintly, and strange patterns moved across its surface, like living energy. Children pointed, mouths open, while adults froze in awe. The city had seen airplanes, drones, and satellites, but nothing like this. And then, slowly, a door opened on the ship. Out stepped a figure. At first, people could not believe their eyes. She was tall, taller than any human, with long hair that glowed softly in shades of silver and blue. Her skin shone faintly in the sunlight, almost as if it held stars within it. She walked slowly, carefully, as if every step mattered. But what truly made people gasp was that she was not alone. Two small hands held hers. A boy and a girl, both human, both clutching her fingers tightly. Their eyes were wide, unsure of everything around them, yet full of a strange calm, as if they had always belonged here. The princess stopped in the middle of the street. She looked around at the crowd, at the city she had once known. Her eyes held a mixture of sadness and hope. Time had passed. Years, decades even. She had left this world a long time ago, hiding herself and her children to protect them. And now, she had returned. The air seemed to hum around her, a quiet power that made even the skeptical pause. People whispered among themselves. "Is that the Princess of Valerian?" one man said. The stories were real? She knelt slightly, lowering herself to the children's height. "I am your mother," she whispered, her voice soft but firm, carrying across the street. "I am the princess of a distant world. My name is Lyria." The little boy blinked, not fully understanding. "Mom, really?" he asked. His small hand squeezed hers tightly. "Yes," Lyria said, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I had to leave to keep you safe. But I have returned. I will never leave you again." The girl, younger and quieter, looked at her mother with wide eyes. "I knew. I always felt you, even in dreams," she whispered. Her fingers curled around Lyria's, feeling warmth and safety she could not explain. Lyria smiled, though her heart was heavy. She remembered the day she had left them, hiding them on this planet to protect them from enemies who wanted her throne and her children. She had promised herself she would return, and after years of waiting and fighting battles across the stars, she had come home. Around her, the crowd began to gather closer. Some were afraid, unsure of what to make of this glowing, powerful being. Others were curious, drawn by the warmth and calm that seemed to radiate from her. Even from a distance, they could see the love between mother and children. It was undeniable. The children tugged gently at her hands, and Lyria bent down to meet them halfway. She whispered softly, "Come, my children. This world is your home, and it will be our home together." The boy and girl nodded slowly, their trust in her unspoken but complete. And as they began to step forward, holding her hands tightly, the people watching felt something strange. Fear melted into wonder. They were witnessing something extraordinary. A mother returning after decades, not just as a ruler of a distant world, but as a protector, a guide, and a symbol of hope. The sun dipped lower, bathing the streets in gold, as the alien princess, long lost to legend, took her first steps into her old world, holding the hands of her two human children. And in that moment, everyone who watched understood. This was not just a return. This was a beginning. The crowd remained silent, unsure how to react. Some stepped back, frightened by her glowing presence. Others leaned forward, curious and amazed. But the Princess Lyria paid them no attention. Her eyes were only on her children. She knelt once more, letting her glowing hands wrap gently around theirs. "I am your mother," she said again, her voice trembling with emotion. "I am the Princess of Ilarion. I had to leave you to protect you, but I never stopped thinking about you. Never." The boy, tall for his age, looked into her eyes. "Mom, but why did you leave?" His voice was small, fragile, carrying both hurt and wonder. Lyria swallowed the memories that threatened to choke her. "I had to. There were enemies. People who wanted to hurt you, to take you from me. I made a choice to keep you safe, even if it meant being apart. I thought I might never see you again." The girl, clutching her mother's hand tightly, whispered, "I always dreamed about you. Sometimes I could feel you in my heart, like you were close even when you weren't here." Lyria's eyes filled with tears. She pulled them both closer, holding them to her chest. "Every day apart was the hardest day of my life. But you were safe. And now I am here. We are together again." A man in the crowd murmured, "I've read stories, legends, but I never believed them. And now, she is real." Lyria looked up at the crowd, not with anger or pride, but with a quiet dignity that demanded respect. She did not need to explain herself to strangers. Her children were here, alive, and that was all that mattered. She stood slowly, holding their hands, and the children instinctively mirrored her confidence. The boy's curiosity grew. "Mom, do people know about Ilarion? About you?" "Yes," Lyria replied softly. "Some know. Most don't. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that we are together now. That we can learn, explore, and live our lives safely, free from fear." The girl looked around at the humans in the street. Will they like us?" "They will," Lyria said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "They are seeing the truth, that love and family matter more than fear. And that truth, that courage, it inspires even the smallest hearts." For a moment, the crowd seemed to hold its breath. Something about this alien mother and her human children felt right. The air seemed warmer, charged with hope. People began to step closer, not threatening but admiring. They sensed the bond, the undeniable connection that spanned worlds. Lyria knelt again, looking directly into her children's eyes. "I know, it will be strange at first," she said, "to see humans and aliens together like this. But remember, we are a family, and no one can take that from us, not distance, not time, not even fear." The boy grinned, his worry fading. "So, we really are together now. Forever." "Forever," Lyria whispered, squeezing their hands. Her chest swelled with a warmth she had never felt anywhere else. She realized that being a mother, really being with her children, gave her strength beyond any throne or power she had ever held. The girl rested her head against her mother's arm. I think I always knew you would come back." "Yes," Lyria said, smiling through tears. "And I did. I promised myself I would return, no matter the cost, no matter the years, I promised. And now, my promise is kept." In that moment, the streets seemed to glow with a quiet magic. Humans and alien alike could feel it, the power of love, the strength of a promise kept, and the courage of a mother returning to her children. People whispered, some in awe, some in disbelief. But all of them understood something important. Family was stronger than fear, stronger than time, and stronger than any distance between stars. The children held her hands tightly as she led them through the street. They did not know what the future held, but they knew one thing for certain. Their mother was back. And that was enough. As Lyria walked through the streets with her children, her mind drifted to memories she had buried deep for decades. She remembered the last day she had seen her home, Ilarion. The sky had been filled with smoke and fire, and the air had carried the screams of those she loved. She had been a princess, a leader, a protector of her people. But none of that mattered when her children's lives were in danger. She had made the hardest decision of her life. She had hidden them on a small, distant planet, a place she had never thought of as home. Earth. It was simple, ordinary, and quiet. Everything Ilarion was not. And yet, it was perfect for keeping them safe. She had watched over them in secret, from afar, as they grew, laughed, and learned to live without knowing her presence. Lyria knelt for a moment on the edge of a quiet street, letting the wind touch her face. She could almost hear their voices, as little infants calling for her, and it broke her heart all over again. She whispered softly, "I never stopped watching you. I never stopped loving you. Every moment apart was filled with hope that one day I could hold you again." The boy tugged at her hand. "Mom, what was it like? Where you came from?" His eyes sparkled with curiosity, a mixture of awe and wonder. Lyria smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "It was beautiful and dangerous. My planet was full of life, full of energy, but it was also full of people who fought for power. I loved it, and I loved my people. But I loved you more." The girl, looking up at her mother with wide eyes, whispered, "Did you ever miss us?" Lyria's throat tightened. "Every day, every hour. Even when I smiled, even when I laughed, I missed you. I carried you in my heart always, and now I have you here, and nothing can take that from me." As they continued to walk, people stopped and stared. Some children waved shyly, curious about the strange, glowing woman with her human children. Some adults whispered in awe, realizing that they were witnessing something miraculous. Lyria noticed the way humans instinctively gave space, sensing her power but also her love. She remembered the nights she had spent staring at the stars, imagining their lives. She had sent small messages in secret, tiny signals of hope that would reach them in dreams. She had watched as they grew stronger, braver, kinder, without knowing who had guided them. And now, walking beside them, she felt a surge of pride and relief. "Mom," the boy said softly, "I never knew. I had dreams like you said, but I never imagined you were real. You always believed, even if you didn't know it," Lyria said, squeezing his hand. "Belief is stronger than sight. Love is stronger than distance. And courage. Courage keeps us alive when all else fails." The girl leaned into her mother's arm. I think I always knew you would come back. I felt it in my heart." Lyria's eyes filled with tears. "You were right. I promised myself I would. I promised I would return no matter what, and I have kept that promise, and now we begin again. Together." They walked on, the sun dipping lower, casting long shadows across the streets. For the first time in decades, Lyria felt truly at peace. The pain of separation was still there, but it no longer defined them. The past had shaped them, yes, but the present was theirs. And the future? That belonged to all of them, together. Around them, people watched silently, sensing something extraordinary. It was not the power of an alien princess that moved them most. It was the love in her eyes, the bond she shared with her children, and the courage she had shown in keeping them safe. Even strangers could feel it deep in their hearts, and as Lyria held their hands tighter, the children felt it too, the unspoken promise that she would never leave again, that no matter the trials ahead, they would face them together. The long-lost mother and her human children had returned, and the world around them began to see that perhaps, just perhaps, love was stronger than the stars themselves. The streets that had once felt safe now trembled with tension. Word of the princess's return had spread quickly, carried by whispers, messages, and the hum of distant ships approaching. Lyria and her children walked carefully, their hands tightly joined, hearts beating in unison. Something was coming, something that would test their bond in ways they could never imagine. From the sky, strange ships appeared, larger and darker than Lyria had seen in decades. They hovered silently, casting long shadows over the city. Soldiers and officials from distant worlds stepped down, their faces stern and unyielding. They were not here to welcome her. They had orders, laws written in cold metal and harsher hearts. "Princess Lyria!" one shouted, voice echoing across the street. "You are under our authority. Your children must be surrendered immediately." Lyria froze for a heartbeat, her gaze never leaving her children. The boy clutched her hand tighter, and the girl's small fingers dug into her mother's. "Mom, what's happening?" The boy whispered, eyes wide with fear. "They want to take us," Lyria said softly, but her voice carried strength. "But they will not. Not while I am here." The crowd of humans who had gathered began to murmur, sensing the danger. Some stepped back, unsure of what to do. Others, braver, stepped forward. There was fear, yes, but there was also something else: admiration, awe, and a strange rising courage. Even though they were human, they could feel the power in Lyria's presence, and they could feel the love she carried for her children. The leader of the invaders advanced, his weapon glowing with energy. "Princess," he said sharply, "you have no right to bring these humans here. They are not yours. Hand them over or face the consequences." Lyria stood taller, the glow of her presence expanding. She held her children close, not as a shield, but as a statement. "They are mine," she said firmly. "By blood, by heart, and by everything I am. You will not take them from me." The humans watching felt something shift. Fear began to turn into courage. They realized that this was not just a fight between worlds. It was a fight for family, for love, for the idea that no force, no matter how powerful, could break the bond between a mother and her children. The invaders hesitated. They had expected surrender, not defiance. But Lyria's children, standing close to her, seemed to grow taller, braver, as if her courage had passed into them. "We are with her!" a human shouted from the crowd. Others echoed the call, stepping forward, raising their voices in solidarity. The tension thickened. Energy weapons hummed. Soldiers shifted, unsure whether to fire. Lyria's eyes, glowing softly, scanned the street, seeing not only her children but the humans who had chosen to stand with them. She realized something profound. These humans were not just bystanders, they were allies. They believed in the same thing she did. They believed in courage, in love, in hope. The boy's hand shook slightly in hers, and Lyria bent down. "Do not be afraid," she whispered. "We will face this together. And together we are stronger than anything that comes for us." The girl, her small head resting against her mother, nodded silently. She felt it, the same strength, the same power, the same unbreakable bond that had carried them through decades of separation. For the first time, the invaders faltered, unsure of how to proceed against a mother who would fight for her children, and a crowd of humans who refused to back down. And in that moment, something changed. Not just for Lyria, not just for her children, but for every human watching. They realized that courage was contagious, that the human heart, when united, could rise to meet the impossible. Lyria straightened, holding both children's hands high. "We will not be separated. We will not be broken. We fight for love, and nothing else matters." The invaders' eyes widened, and for a heartbeat the city held its breath. The battle had not yet begun, but the war for the children's freedom had already been won in the hearts of those who stood with them. The air vibrated with tension as the invaders advanced. Their weapons glowed ominously, ready to strike. The streets, once peaceful, became a battlefield of fear and determination. Lyria held her children close, feeling their small hands clutching hers tightly. Her heart pounded, but her resolve was unshakable. She would protect them no matter the cost. The first energy beam shot toward them, and Lyria raised her hand. A shimmering shield erupted, glowing like molten crystal. The beam struck the barrier with a hiss of energy, scattering sparks across the street. Her children gasped, eyes wide, but Lyria's presence was calming. "Stay close to me," she said, her voice steady. "I've got you." The humans watching were astonished. Ordinary people, unarmed, began to step forward. They weren't soldiers, but their courage grew in Lyria's presence. They blocked streets, formed human chains, and shouted for the invaders to stop. The crowd's defiance was unexpected, and it surprised the enemies. The boy looked up at his mother, awe in his eyes. "Mom, you're amazing." Lyria smiled briefly but did not lower her guard. "I learned from the best," she said softly. "And now, you will see how strong humans can be too." With a deep breath, she projected waves of energy from her hands, not to harm, but to defend. The invaders' ship shook as Lyria's shields and energy pulses met their attacks. Buildings trembled, and the streets glowed with the light of her power. Yet her focus never wavered from her children. The girl clung to her side, her small voice whispering, "I'm not scared. You're here." The battle raged, but something remarkable began to happen. Humans, inspired by Lyria, acted with unexpected bravery. A group of engineers dismantled an invader weapon and turned it against the attackers. Citizens blocked paths, creating obstacles, and the invaders' coordinated attack started to falter. Humans, fragile and untrained, were holding their own because they believed in Lyria and the cause she fought for. The boy's eyes shone with pride. "We can do it. We can help," he shouted. He grabbed a small control panel from the ground and, under his mother's guidance, redirected energy to disable a hovering ship. The girl next to him cheered, her fear melting into courage. Lyria looked around at the humans, feeling a surge of hope she had not felt in decades. She realized something incredible. These people, small and seemingly ordinary, had a strength that rivaled the stars. Their courage, their unity, their willingness to fight for something greater than themselves, it was extraordinary. Humanity was rising, and she felt proud to call them her allies. The invaders, now seeing their control slip, hesitated. Their fear of Lyria's power was real, but it was the humans' determination that truly unsettled them. They had expected fear and submission, not defiance born of love and hope. Lyria's heart swelled as she lifted her children above her shoulders, holding their hands high. "We are together," she shouted. "He will not be broken. We will not be separated. Love will protect us." The crowd of humans echoed her words, their voices loud and unified. It was not just a battle for survival anymore. It was a battle for the idea that courage, hope, and love could triumph against any enemy. The invaders' ships trembled, faltering under the combined force of Lyria's energy and humanity's determination. They had underestimated something no weapon could destroy: the bond of family and the power of the human spirit. The children laughed through tears, holding their mother's hands tighter. They felt safe, loved, and powerful, even in the chaos around them. And Lyria, looking at her children and the humans standing with her, realized that they had already won the most important battle. They had proven that humanity could rise to meet the impossible. In that moment, as the sun dipped low, painting the battlefield with gold and orange, Lyria knew something incredible. Not just her children, not just her people, but the humans beside her. All of them had become part of a story greater than any star or planet. Together, they were unstoppable. The streets were quiet now, though the air still hummed with the remnants of energy and battle. The invaders had retreated, their ships disappearing into the sky, leaving the city trembling but intact. Lyria stood in the middle of the street, holding her children close, her glowing form softening as the tension faded. The boy and girl looked up at her, their faces filled with awe and relief. "Mom, it's over?" the boy asked, his voice shaky but hopeful. "Yes," Lyria replied softly. "It's over, for now at least. But we must stay strong, together." Humans from the crowd slowly approached, cautious at first, then with growing confidence. One by one they reached out, offering hands, smiles, and words of gratitude. They had witnessed something extraordinary, not just a fight, but a bond that no weapon, no army, and no fear could break. A man stepped forward, his face lined with worry and wonder. "You fought for us," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Not because we are aliens, but because you are family." Lyria's heart swelled. She knelt down, holding both children in her arms. "Family," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "is not only about blood, it is about love, courage, and trust. And right now all of us are family." The children's small hands reached out to the humans around them. "They helped us," the girl said proudly. "We couldn't have done it without them." The boy nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, they were brave. Just like Mom said humans could be." Lyria smiled, brushing her glowing hair back from her face. "They are more than brave. They are extraordinary, and that is humanity at its best." She looked around at the humans standing before her. Ordinary people who had chosen to step forward in fear and stand united in courage. "You all showed the strength of your hearts today. That is something no power can ever take away." The humans felt a strange warmth spread through them. They had seen weapons and ships, power and energy, but the most powerful force they had witnessed was love and courage. It was humbling, inspiring, and uplifting all at once. Lyria stood holding her children's hands high. "We survived together," she said, "not because of strength alone, but because of unity. Together we are unstoppable. Together we can face anything that comes our way." Her children laughed, their voices ringing with joy. The boy spun around, looking at the people who had helped them. "We did it. We really did it." The girl nodded, eyes shining. "We are a family, and everyone here is part of it too." Lyria's eyes filled with tears. "Exactly. Every one of you is part of our story now. And this story, it is about hope, courage, and the belief that no matter how far apart we are, no matter how strong the challenges, we can rise together." The humans, moved by her words, cheered softly. The sound carried across the streets, reaching the rooftops and even the distant hills. It was not a battle cry. It was a celebration of unity, a promise that even in the darkest times hope could shine brighter than any star. The princess knelt once more, hugging her children tightly. "You see," she said, smiling through tears, "we are never alone. We have each other. We have love, and that is stronger than any weapon, any army, or any world." The children hugged her back, feeling a warmth and security they had never known fully until now. The humans around them watched silently, some wiping tears, some smiling proudly. They had witnessed something extraordinary: a mother, her children, and a planet of people standing together as one. And as the sun began to rise, casting golden light over the city, Lyria felt a sense of peace she had not known in decades. They had survived. They had fought. And they had found unity, humanity's courage shining alongside her own. The long-lost princess had returned. Her children were safe, and the humans had shown their true strength. Together, they were unstoppable. Together, they were a family. The sun rose slowly over the city, painting the streets in golden light. The battle was over, and the hum of distant ships had faded. Lyria stood tall, her glowing figure calm and radiant. She held the hands of her two children, feeling their small fingers curl around hers with complete trust. The streets, once filled with fear and chaos, now held a quiet reverence. People watched in awe, witnessing a story unfold that was greater than any legend. "Mom, we did it," the boy whispered, his voice full of amazement. "We really did it." "Yes," Lyria said softly, tears glimmering in her eyes. "And we will continue to do it together. Always." The girl smiled up at her mother, her small face glowing with pride. "I knew you would come back. I always knew," she said quietly. Lyria knelt to meet their eyes, holding their faces gently in her hands. "I promised," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "No matter how far I went, no matter how long I was gone, I promised I would return, and now I have kept my promise." Around them, humans approached slowly, some smiling, some tearful, all moved by the scene before them. They had witnessed courage, sacrifice, and love in its purest form. They had seen a mother fight for her children, and in doing so, humanity had discovered its own strength. Ordinary people had stood up against fear and danger, proving that courage was not just for soldiers or rulers. It was in every human heart. A man stepped forward, voice shaking with respect. "You've shown us something incredible," he said. "Not just your power, but your love. And you've shown us that we can be stronger than we imagined. Together." Lyria smiled, feeling a deep warmth. "Love," she said softly, "is the most powerful force in the universe. It binds us, protects us, and gives us courage even when all hope seems lost. My children, these humans, they are my family, and family is worth everything." The children hugged her tightly, their laughter and tears mixing together. "We are together now, Mom," the boy said, his voice full of joy. "Nothing can ever separate us again." "Yes," Lyria whispered, holding them close. "Together we will face the future. Together we will create a new story." The humans around them cheered, their voices echoing across the streets. It was not just a celebration of victory, but a celebration of hope, courage, and unity. The city, once tense and fearful, now felt alive with possibility. Everyone understood something profound. Strength was not in weapons, power, or technology. It was in love, loyalty, and the courage to stand together. Lyria looked up at the sky, feeling a quiet joy. The stars above seemed closer now, like friends watching over them. She had returned to her children, and in doing so, she had returned to herself. The years of fear, pain, and distance were behind them. Ahead lay a future bright with hope, adventure, and love. The children held her hands tightly as she began to walk through the streets, surrounded by humans who had chosen to stand with them. Each step felt like a promise that they would face challenges together, that no enemy could break their bond, and that love would always guide them. The city seemed to glow in response, reflecting the warmth of courage and unity. Lyria smiled, looking at her children, their eyes shining with trust and joy. She felt the power of humanity, not the strength of their arms, but the strength of their hearts. For the first time in decades, Lyria felt completely at peace. She was home. Her children were safe, and the humans who had stood by them had shown her a truth she would carry forever. Humanity was extraordinary, and together they could rise to meet the impossible. She whispered softly, "We have returned, my loves, and together we will shine brighter than the stars." Hand in hand, mother and children walked forward, surrounded by humans, as the sun rose fully over the city. In that moment, love, courage, and hope were stronger than any fear, and the long-lost alien princess had truly returned, bringing a new light to the world and showing humanity at its very best.